Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Liv's Thoughts. It's a little bright out here this morning, not gonna lie, but today I want to talk about the trial and death of Socrates and kind of relate it back to our lives now, because it's made me think a lot about morality in a whole and where our morality comes from. And I made a TikTok video about this too, and I had a comment that really made me think, because I don't agree with what the comment said. Pretty much, the trial and death of Socrates is Socrates going to trial and dying because he, surprise, is in trouble for getting people to think about morality and getting people to question and kind of not go against necessarily, but question what the gods are saying, why that is what goes, and what quantifies something as just or unjust simply based off of if the gods say it is correct or isn't correct. And in the first chapter here, he's speaking to this guy named Euphorio, I think his name is, and they're outside of a courthouse. Euphorio is a prosecutor. He is prosecuting his own father for committing vigilante justice in the form of murder. So he murdered someone who murdered an innocent man. You know, it's debatable, but Euphorio was like, no, what he did was unjust, and I'm prosecuting him to the best of my ability, because what the gods say kind of goes. And Socrates stops him and says, well, why are you doing this? Like this, why is what the gods say all automatically law and automatically what is moral or non-moral, and what makes something kind of like righteous or like pure to the God sense? Like, what is the determining factor of the morality of that thing or that like law that we have in place? And really what it made me kind of think about is like kind of our modern day society of America and the morality aspect of America and how we decide our own morals in this world. And obviously in America, our morals flow all the way back to when we first came here, the settlers, and back to even earlier than that in the Roman Catholic times, where our morality comes from religion. Like most of your morality and the things that you were taught growing up are because of this one nation under God. Our laws are based behind what is godly or what is not godly, or holy versus unholy, like whatever you want to call it. And it's interesting to kind of deconstruct our morality and think about it, like, who was the first to say that what the gods believe or don't believe is correct? And also, who is determining that what they're saying isn't actually completely false and completely backwards? Because that makes me think of The Good Place, and how in The Good Place, it's like the good place is actually hell. And maybe we are living in a kind of augmented society where we are living in hell, and the rules that we are following are complete opposite of what it takes to truly be a free human being and be able to express yourself freely. Because I think morality comes from almost respecting the rules of nature, in my personal opinion. Because if you're nice to others, they'll be nice to, we talk about this every video, chain reaction of being nice to yourself so you can be nicer to others. And I think that that is where a lot of basis of morality comes from, is rules of nature, like just point blank done. But where was I going with this? Oh, the comment that I disagreed with. There was someone commented on my video about how they think that our morals come from wounds of our ancestors and all this stuff about like listening to our ancestors, whatever. White people, I don't know about y'all, but I don't feel very connected to my ancestors. Like, I don't think I really be having ancestors like that. Like, we just take and copy everything. Like most things that white people do is just a copy of a different group of indigenous, a different group of like someone that's POC, like any other culture. We're culture vultures. We take. And so when it comes to listening to our ancestors about our morals, it's coming from religion. It's not coming from people listening to the wind to tell them yes or no. For white people, it is coming from religion. But for anyone else, I feel like it might be coming from other stuff for sure. But it is really interesting to think about like morality as a whole and where it is shifting in our current society, because I do see morality shifting a lot over the past like even 5 years since the pandemic. The pandemic really screwed a lot of people's brains up, I think. But the pandemic and the way that we've kind of changed what is culturally appropriate versus what is not appropriate is really weird to just witness and be a part of. I'm curious to see what we're going to be like in 10 years, 5 years even from now, even next year, like what life will be like next year, because as we're seeing with the current administration too, like luckily Trump's bill got blocked by the Supreme Court, so he can't start putting out martial law to deport people. But like we're kind of doing I hate to say this out loud, we're kind of doing an ethnic cleansing in the United States right now, and I'm kind of curious to see what that will do for our versions of morality. And I'm curious, I need to do more research into this, but in different countries, is morality different based on culture of religion and just culture of the people, because they are connected to their past so heavily with tradition. Tradition in America is the American dream, having a Christmas, having an Easter, going to church every Sunday, having Sunday football. Like American tradition and culture is so far from being connected with nature, and I think is the farthest culture from nature in and of itself. So it is really interesting to think about like where it all comes from. But also, I want to read some of the things that were highlighted in this book as well. Number 1, now the hour to part has come. I go to die, you go to live. Which of us goes to the better lot is known to no one except the God. And when we think about like, is living peaceful or is dying peaceful, and like where this kind of comes from, it just like this book has just made me think about so much stuff when it comes to like, is what we've been told our entire lives so propagandized to believe that after this there is something that is so much better for us, but also after this there could be something so much worse for us than here? And who decides that? Like, who truly comes up with the morals for you're a good person or you're not a good person? Because in this book, Socrates' main argument was, so what is God beloved or loved by the gods? It has to be God beloved, and it has to be followed by everyone. And what is not loved by the gods is unbeloved by the gods and has to be followed by everyone. Who makes that distinction? And it comes back to the state, like he goes off on this tangent at the end. Let me find it really fast. Sorry, I should have marked this when I was, oh, here it is. So do you think that if we have the right to retaliation against its country and its laws, because some people are victim of their country and their circumstances, like if you really think about it, like living in a place where, I'm going to use any other culture besides white culture, like in America, there are psyops all around kind of keeping people that are not white down in certain senses. Like you could go on to the whole culture talk about rap music and the Black community and how it is detrimental actually to younger children and having them grow up in more, not violent, but like because of the culture they're surrounded by, they could grow up kind of have a third person perspective and say, you guys were kind of against me my entire life. Fuck the system, fuck this country, and retaliate against it. Is that lawful? And is that moral? And is that just? Because, like, where did these laws come from? Anyways, back to this. And if we undertake to destroy what you think, destroy and think right to do so, can you undertake to destroy us as far as you can return? And you will not say that you are right to do so. You who truly care for virtue. Is wisdom such as not realize that your country is to be honored more than your mother, your father, and all your ancestors, that it is to be revered and more sacred than what it counts among the gods and sensible men, that you must worship it, yield to it, and facilitate its anger more than your fathers? You must either persuade or obey its orders, and to endure the silence of whatever instructs you to endure, whether it's blows or bonds, or whether it leads you into war to be wounded or killed, you must obey. And thinking about kind of just this aspect of morality, like we have laws in place that are completely unjust and unholy and ungodly. And who is it to be? Who are we to decide which way of life to live? The state or by God? And is there a middle ground in there? It's so interesting. It's very interesting. Oh, and then this one also. This made me think really interestingly. You will also strengthen the conviction of the jury as they pass the right sentence on to you. For anyone who destroys the laws could easily be thought to corrupt the young and ignorant. Or will you avoid cities that are well governed by men who are civilized? If you do this, will your life be worth living? Will you have social intercourse with them? And not be ashamed to talk to them? What will you say? The same as you did here, that virtue and justice are man's most precious possessions, along with lawful behavior and the laws. Do you think that Socrates would appear to seem like to be an unseemly kind of person? One must think so. And like to think that like you living according to what gods are telling you but is incorrect to the state is so weird to me. It's so weird because like I really do think that morality stems from rules of nature and this hierarchy of Mother Nature we've had for countless years now, thousands of years, ever since this world came to be. You think that that would be the law of the land, but it isn't, because we're having men make up what is godly and what is ungodly, or whatever you want to call it. What was the word that I learned from this book? Piety? I think so. There's one one word that I didn't know what it meant, but learned it meant like religious, pious, that's what it is. Impious, impus, I don't know how to say it, but who is it to tell? And where do our morals come from? I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this, or if you have any thoughts on this, because it really wraps my brain for hours to think about where morality really truly does stem from. And if we are born with an innate morality that we would have if we were not nurtured or nature, or like the whole nurture versus nature thing, if you were just grow up without parents pretty much, would you still have this innate morality to you and kind of inherited morality? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Plato got me thinking. This is the second book by Plato I've read where it's really made me think a lot, because the other one I read was about being a person who is persuasive with their speech. And is that immoral to persuade people even though you can with false information like many politicians do? Like, is that more, but because you're able to do it, does that make it justified? And it's so interesting to think about that. Like, if you're able to persuade people into thinking something that is completely untrue, is it justified because you have the ability to do so and they are ignorant or oblivious enough to believe it? Side profile goes crazy. Yeah, this is fun. So yeah, let me know your thoughts below. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is kind of a little bit of a different style video, but I wanted to talk about this and speak more in depthly than I did on my TikTok. So yeah, peace, love, and happiness. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.